Hello everyone, Nikhil this side from Coding Beam. So in this video we will learn about components in the React. So now about the components in the React. Components are the independent and reusable building blocks of the React application, and they just perform as a JavaScript function which return functionalities which HTML layout like a list, header or like some boxes. So there are two types of components in the React. The first is a class-based components, and we know this as a stateful components. So the class-based are the stateful components, and the class-based components inherits the components class from the React and renders the HTML into it. So about demoing the class-based components, we have to go to the app file. So we are now in the app.js, and now to create a component, first we have to create a new file. And the file name will be the name of the component. Like if we are building a product component, so it will be product.js, and make sure you are naming it as a Pascal naming convention. So the first letter will be the capital. So now there is a product.js, and now first we have to import the React from the React. The first thing we need to import the React from the React to use the component, and then we need to import, now we need to declare a new class with the ES6 keywords. Like it will be the class, and it will be the product, and then it will be extending like extends. We have to inherit the components class React.component. So now it is now a component. So now product is a component. Now we can just declare some state, or we can directly render the HTML inside it, and to render the HTML we need to use the render function. So it will be the render, and then we need to use here like the return statement, return, and it will be returning the HTML, like it will be the h1, and then it is like a class based component. And now we have now to export this component. And now to use it into the parent component, we need to export this product here. So it will be the export default, it will be default export and the product. So now this is our most basic component of the product. So now if we have to use it in the app component, so we have to go to the app.js, and then we have to import here the product. So it will be a product, and it will auto import from this. So now you will see the product is here, and it will be the product, and then we have to close this. And now if I will now save, and now if I will now go to the Chrome, opening the localhost server 3000. So now you will see this is a class based components, because we are now rendering that component into the function app, which is a class component. And if I will now open the product component, then you will see we are now returning the class based component as a text inside it. And now this is the class based components. And now if we have to see about the another components, the another component is a function based components, and the function based components are the stateless components, but only without the hooks. But if we have to use the hooks, then the functional components are also stateful and powerful components than the class based also. So if we have to use here the functional components, if I will now comment this class based component from here, and if I will now make this as a functional component, so we have to use an arrow function, or we can directly use here the name function in that. But I will now use the arrow function const product, the name will be the same, and it will be equals to the arrow function. Now we don't have to write a render to return the HTML, so it will directly return the HTML like return, and it contains the HTML like h1. Now this, or like this, is a functional component. So if I will now save, and now we have to export this also. So we have to copy the export default, and then we have to export this product also. So if I will now save, so then you will see we are now defining the product, and product is then being imported to the app.js, and we are returning the h1 with the this is a functional component. So if I will now save, so then in the Chrome you will see this is the functional component in that. So these are about the class based and the functional components. And about some props. The props are used to send the data between the components, and we can pass the data from the parent component to the child component in the React. So if we have to send the data between the components, so like we have the app.js, and the app.js is the parent component because it is now rendering the product component inside that. And now the product component is the child component of the app. So if we have to send the data from the parent, like it is a const, it is like a name equals to, and it is like a Nikhil. So if I will now send the name to the product component, so we have to name here as the prop, and the prop will contain as a name. And now we are sending the name as the variable name. So the prop name is equals to the name and the variable is this name. So if I will now send this data, now we have to receive the props in the arguments inside the product component. So in the arguments we need to define the props. So then we have to use here the props, like this is a functional component or like my name is, and then it will contain as the props object, and the props always contains an object, so it will be the props dot name, which we are sending there because we are now sending here the product name. So the name will contain as the props dot name. So if I will now save, then I should see my name is Nikhil. So now you will see my name is Nikhil. And now if we have to implement the props in the class based components, if I will now comment this functional, and if I will now undo the comment of the class based components, and now to use the props in the class based components, we need to use like this dot props and the name of the props. So it will contain like the my name is, so it will contain as the this as the global object this dot props, and the props will contain as the name. So if I will now send this name, so if I will now save this, so then you will see there will be the same output as my name is Nikhil. So these are about the components and the props. So as per the summary, the props can only be used from the parent component to the child component. So the prop sends data from parent to child, and there is no option from the child to parent unless we use the Redux or the context API in the React. So thank you guys for watching the video, and I hope you will like the video. And guys, please subscribe to our channel if you are new, and we have a full playlist going on for the ReactJS, and make sure you watch all of the videos. Thank you guys.